Hi. All right, I'm going to talk about the fundamentalist and the modernist point of view. And I must say, and I'm going to talk about the Scopes trial, or the monkey trial, as I learned it in school. That's what we all called it. But I gotta say, I didn't really know the difference between a fundamentalist point of view and a modernist point of view until I had to do a discussion board. And I found out that I'm definitely a fundamentalist. Basically, it's really hard to say, by the way. Basically, a fundamentalist believes that Jesus Christ and the Bible is the Bible is the gospel, and Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. They believe one way. One man came and died. We have one book. Everything is one. A modernist believes that there are many gospels. They don't believe it's strictly tied down to one. So in my opinion, it's kind of the spiritual view, it's kind of very similar to me between a liberalist and a conservative. Like polar opposites, that's how I feel like a fundamentalist and a modernist are. Modernist is more worldly, accepting, arms open, in the eyes of the world, and then a fundamentalist is more conservative, very tied down into one belief system, which to the outside world makes them seem closed off. So I don't know how I feel about those two things. It's apparently an ongoing struggle and a dispute that's been going on for years and years and years and years and years. Okay, so the Scopes monkey trial is about academic freedom being taken away from students, or so they thought. And it all started, let me move my computer screen over so I can see what's going on here. It started in the early not early 1900s, 1925-ish, so I guess the first quarter of the whole century, in Tennessee. There was a man named John T. Scopes, who was a biology teacher, who decided to teach about Darwinism. And apparently a lot of people didn't really like that. And he was tried for it in July. So it happened in March. The statute was passed in March, but he was tried in July, so a few months later. And his attorney argued that they can't prosecute him because that blurs the line between church and state, and putting them together, because he wasn't teaching about the gospel, he was teaching about Darwinism. And they felt like their academic freedom was being violated. And what does it say exactly? Verbatim, they were being violated, and they claimed the legislature, I cannot talk tonight, had indicated a religious preference, violating the separation of church and state. He also maintained that the evolutionary theory was consistent with certain interpretations of the Bible, and in an especially dramatic session, he sharply questioned Bryan on the latter's literal interpretation. Scopes was convicted, partly because of the defense, which refused to plead any of the technical defense available, fearing an acquittal on a technical rather than a constitutional basis. Scopes was, however, later released by the state Supreme Court on a technicality. It's kind of crazy that he got away with this, because in Tennessee, you are prohibited in public schools to teach theories that are kind of outside of the biblical principles, or you were in the 1900s. So when he took this little Darwinism thing, evolution, that we came from monkeys, and ran with it, he got in a little bit of trouble, and a lot of people were really displeased. And I have to say, he had a lot of guts to do this in the South. I mean, of all the places you're going to trample on the Bible and say we come from monkeys, you're going to do it in Tennessee. He had some guts, and they prosecuted him on it. He definitely exercised his freedom of religion. He can practice what he wants to and all that, but I think the lines got blurred when he was trying to teach it to children. People didn't like it, and I think that really goes back to the fundamentalist and the modernist point of view. the fundamentalists were so angry with him for teaching their children Darwinism. But yet the modernists thought it was well and good. Scopes was obviously a modernist because he was teaching Darwinism. It's just a tricky situation, and it's a slippery slope. And I actually took a class in college, and I loved it in my undergraduate years, and I loved it so much. I thought it was great. I loved my teacher. I thought she was the smartest woman I'd ever met in my life. And I specifically remember her telling us, you know, how infants always grab onto things and hold on. Like, you know, they grasp at everything. And we were all like, yeah, we know that. And she said, do you know what that's from? That is from when we started out as baby monkeys. We grabbed onto the hair of our mother's back to hold on as she carried us. And that is something that has stayed with us. And she truly 100,000% believes that we came from monkeys. And you know, if you believe that, that's how you believe. I am obviously a fundamentalist and I don't believe that. But you are entitled to your own belief system because this is a free country, you know, and Scopes was entitled to his free belief system, you know, do what he wanted and teach what he wanted, but he violated the statute that was put in place, so he kind of made a boo-boo there. But I definitely think the fundamentalist and the modernist back and forth thing is probably going to go on forever because no one really thinks the other one is right. And I can 100% say that. I don't feel like the modernist is right. There's not a million gods. There's one, and there's one way. You know, there's one gospel. One man came and died for us. One gospel he gave us. One way to heaven. But I know plenty of people who believe that there are many ways to heaven. And it's just an ongoing thing, and it's going to be around forever. It's a tough one.